appear, and there's very little editing working on them. And there's other pieces that we're constantly changing and transforming. Had a wonderful hike yesterday with a painter, sculptor, therapist. We did 5 miles up in the hills. So a nice long talk, especially at the rate that I walk. And we were talking about how the subconscious is kind of like a stream. And there's all these sedimentary layers in our own mind. And sometimes that water is just pulling away and it's leaving behind the monuments. And sometimes that is how that art comes, and we don't know it's there until we actually start writing it or sculpting it or painting it. And I was looking for some form of submission that would show the before and after. I wanted to convey like how beautiful it is to see here's this first piece and here's what it became. And it seemed like most of the submissions who were given that were trying to show a before and after were 2 or 3 pages long. And they somehow, I was trying to get them on a front, 2-page thing, so it didn't quite work. So the irony is that the only thing that is before and after actually is the online cover. So there is an artist who just had a piece almost done, had the layout of the painting supplies, there's a richness of the color, it was just beautiful. I guess it was a complete piece, it wasn't a before and an after, but the before itself was actually delightful to look at. So if you can take a look at the online book, I was hoping the projector would be on today, but anyhow. So thank you all very much for submitting this year, and we will only be having 5 artists because 2 unfortunately had to call in sick, so to speak, for one reason or another. So I'm going to read a poem from Dane Servine and Ruth Moda. And so this piece, Dane Servine, is Mother Mary and the Womb of Buddhas. The Sanskrit word Gambhira, or deep, describes heart sutra practice, also signifying the 2 bodily clefts of the navel and vagina that link one life to another. I think of this staring at the white statue of Mother Mary in the Redwood Grove of the Catholic nunnery where a Zen retreat is held. It is an odd, almost dangerous juxtaposition. Mary's supposed virginity with the Tibetan Buddhist notion that Buddha resides in the vaginas of deities to show by example how to become a Buddha. Intimacy is a Zen word, but the cross-cultural iconography is jarring. Still, while Mary may have had an immaculate conception, I doubt the birth was. Even a world savior comes through blood and the mess of desire, the hallowed passage into the human, undulating like a tantric snake to seduce us out. Even Mary must have felt this. I stare at her face, enigmatic as Mona Lisa's or Buddha's, this sutra of the heart, a suture for the terrible blessing of every womb, the leaving to enter the deep of this world. That's Dane, so hopefully the family doing well. And then Ruth Mata, when you find an error after all the editing, I won't mention it. Bridge over Capibaribe. I remember the night those March rains ended, when we crossed together over the swollen Capibaribe, Recifi's ripened scent wrapped around us in a muggy shawl. Moonlight mirrored, contorted in the swirling muddy river, while in the shadows, crabbers clinked and scurried below. A beggar jangled coins in the bottom of his Nestle can. His eyes pierced me as he yelled, "Alema me da dinero." We passed him by. I pretending not to hear, you not hearing. Too worried about the number of days before your next paycheck, about our car in the body shop, about the baby growing in my belly. Beads of sweat formed on your brow when you examined the coins in your palm and realized we had just enough to catch the bus home. While I found it miraculous that our monetary salvation was so precise. Your worries blocked this city's pain. I absorbed it. The woman who rummaged through our garbage bin, those legs bloated with elephantitis spread across the sidewalk, the emaciated boy who twice twirled the latch on my purse when he scurried by, the latch you reminded me over and over to turn inwards towards my breast. On that bridge, we walked together, holding hands, but tumbling in different dreams. You afraid of sliding into poverty, unable to provide. Me calming the currents of human misery that kept rising, turgid and brown, like the water beneath us. Okay, and now on to the true published famous people in the room. Will you please welcome up first, Jade Bradbury.
What a beautiful volume this is. They always are, but I'm happy to be included. This is a cento, and you probably know, but a cento is generally composed, it has an ancient history, back to Virgil, but it's normally composed of phrases and words brought together in a poem that becomes something else entirely. This one happens to have been composed from 35 poets from the Best American Poets 1988 Celebrate Anniversary Edition. So what I had sent by way of arrival were some of the phrases and so forth that I had cribbed, and then they're all put together in a way that once I'd finished, I knew it was mine. It was no longer theirs. Oh, but they're in there. Everything has a limit, including sorrow. 1. When I'm lucky, the world comes to me. But who can say how I came to this desert, all my lights burning at noon? Just to think of it sometimes engenders a chill so thorough, the planet's own breath draws back. Nothing, no one gives me rest. Something is always working the other way. See how past the past is, how unnervingly young. Yet I know the life I live must lead to death and emptiness and end of breath. Any existence occupies time, the selfish chance to make these dubious gifts of knowledge of oneself is lost at death. The bear at the door, the wild riff-raff splendor of it all. 2. Without the dream of possibility, there is no love, an accident waiting to happen. A young man fidgets in a doorway, cups his hand around a blue flicker of panic. God, how he loves that girl. What if I did not mention death to get started, or how love fails our well-meaning hands? It rains perhaps on the other side of the heart, the smell of rain nostalgic, confusion of stillness and motion, the distracted way love sweeps through the ruins, as tangible as the slow hallucination of a summer day, simulacrum of that hidden world of feeling and resentment. A shivering, soft gray mist shape-shifts a bundle of shredded starlight. This is what love and history does. Above sits atop, it's below, each undoing the other, even though they embrace. A paper universe of primes, slashed by little deaths of sleep and pleasure, evolves to fill unfinished nature. 3. In your room, you were gathering privacy, frantically, phonetically. There where I left parts of myself everywhere, created an anti-hero composed of lost neutrinos, articulating spaces almost not there. Read, wonder, as signs. Having gone so far into what hurts, I know defensiveness is a sure sign of being gored by truth. Substitute writer for mirror, visionary for window, hack for glass. Look closely enough to see what's written on your forehead and know you only did what was necessary. Fated as you were to indecision, to second thoughts, a lifetime of revision. You wanted clarity, finally gilded in some exasperating way that turns into truth, plus something delicate and dismal as a star, cautious as a drop of milk. The room's a cradle, an ark. It says half the point of our departure is in coming back. 4. Now I come to a mental clearing where I can only speak from the heart, and ghosts and disappointment flit away, hunger unsatisfied. Great dark wings passing over my roof confound rather than reassure. What am I left to endure? Winds are sowing from the death sack of seed the burden of proof, rattling a fist of milkweed until it's prized open. May we live past this winter. Whatever was it we made of earth, amazing earth, amazed perhaps by all she's given us. Her bridal veil wove of confidential clouds will have to serve as her burying shroud. The sky will disappear like a scroll rolled up and hidden in a cave where the wind blows through its black tunnels laced with spiderwebs, fungi, and lichens. An unwarranted curtailment of expectancy, wave of agitation, a gasp. Better to fall backwards into the deep end of night than to come back as a ghost without a story.